Thank you for joining on this series on this episode. We're going to continue where we stopped from the previous video where we discussed about logging in. So let us quickly wire up routing. Remember we said gene can also be used for routing. So right here we're going to define a variable. I'll call it router, and it's going to be the value is going to be gene default. All right, so we have instantiated our router here, so let us use it in our main function like so. So we're going to say router dot post. Okay, it's a post request we're going to be doing against this part, and the function that we're responsible for it is this login function we define here, this one, right? So with this, let us also make our application listen to a port. So we're going to say log.fatal. In case there is an error listening to this port, the application should not even run. So we are going to return a fatal to our log. So a fatal error to our log. So we'll say router.run. This also a helper function from the gene package we installed. So we are going to listen on port 80, let's say port 8080, not 90, 80. So this is all we need. At this point, I should just remove this print line here, right? So this is what we need to run our application. So run our application using go run main.go, and it should listen to port 8080. Let's give it a try. So say go run main.go. All right, let me take this up. I think we're having an issue. Oh, forgot to remove this import. Fine, so let's run this again. Let's see, we should have output here. Good, you could see that we have the gene instance running, and we have an endpoint called login, right? So let us go ahead on our postman. Of course, you could see that this application is listening to ports 8080. So let us go to postman now. So I'm going to create we're going to define HTTP, right? Localhost. Let's just use this and edit this to login, right? So we'll say login. This is listening to port 8080. We're going to change this method, HTTP method, to post. So we're going to use JSON here as our input, right? So one of the stuff we have is the username, and we should define our password. It should be password, right? So when we have the, let us fire this request and see if we get a response that is a token. You could see we have a response of status 200, and this is the token that is generated for us. So let us also try some other stuff. Let's say we give in a username that is not valid. Let's see if our validation work. Let's say this username is not found, right? So we should not create a token. You could see we have please provide a valid login detail. The same thing with the password. Let's say the user name is correct this time, but the password is not. We should also have an error here. So let's also see that maybe instead of passing a username here, we pass in a number, an integer instead of a string. We should also see an error. It said invalid JSON. Now all this we are specified here. We said if any of this failed, you could see the last error that was just returned, invalid JSON provided, right? If you couldn't bind this, you could see the essence of this should bind JSON here. Then we could also see the essence of using validating this. If this doesn't conform, we should return an error also. So that's about it. So let's fix this and have the username back and the password. So let's run this again. You could see that we have the token generated. So thank you very much. You've seen how we could generate a JWT in Golang. This is not the full story. This token expires after 15 minutes. I'm going to show you how you could follow best practices to do it. It is very obvious from the implementation we have that there are a lot of things we need to fix about our application. So I wrote about using JWT for authentication in Go in Nesmo Developer Spotlight program, and this is the article I wrote. I would like to share it with you. I'll share it with you after now. So in this article I highlighted from the current implementation we have what could possibly go wrong. If you look at when I share the link with you, look at the limitations to this approach you've used thus far. Just let me zoom in so that you can see my screen very well. Now we've understood that the JWT we created can only be invalidated when it expires. So in a scenario where a user needs to log out, the JWT is still valid and can be used to perform a request on behalf of that user, which is not an ideal thing to do because it has so many security threats. Then the next one is a hacker might hijack a user's token and use it to make requests as long as he wants until the token is invalidated. Then the other one is the token expires after 15 minutes. What now happens if a user needs to make a request? Let's say the user needs to create a post in your application and his token has already expired. So what can he do? There is nothing else to do rather than logging in again. I think that's not a great user experience. So in the forthcoming videos, we'll see how we can fix these loopholes. Some of the suggestions we have here are these. We are going to be using a persistent layer such as Redis to store what we call a JWT metadata. This is going to be explained in detail in the next video. Then the next one we're going to look at is we are going to create a refresh token to help us create new pairs of access and refresh tokens whenever an access token expires after 15 minutes, just like we've set it. So you can read more about what I'm trying to say when I send you the link, so that you can get a full details of how you could generate JWT and save the metadata in Redis. So until then, we'll see you in the next video, and bye.